Good afternoon, family, friends, fellow faculty, and of course, our dear graduates. I am so pleased to welcome you here today to celebrate our Executive Master Public Administration graduates who completed their degrees in 2020 and in 2021. I also want to take a moment to welcome those graduates who are joining us from all corners of the globe through our online live stream. I'm so glad that we could all celebrate together. That we are gathered today is a true testament to your resilience. You have persevered through an incredibly challenging program, an incredibly challenging year, and indeed, basically, lots of stress and different sorts of things that got you during these last few years. I think it speaks to the resilience also of your families, who many are here today. Now, as mid-career professionals, none of you are strangers to balancing work with personal commitments. And I can imagine that your added dedication that this degree required gave you many moments where you paused and thought, why am I doing this? Now, at the end of this journey, I hope that you can see its value and that the lessons that you learned, not only from the professors who are here today, but also from one another, cloud out any negative memories from late nights in front of a screen when probably you spent the rest of the day in front of the screen working as well. Well, your graduation, of course, signals an end to your time of students here at the Hertie School, but it's also a beginning to your time as an alum of this university, which I think is nicely exemplified in that we're bringing together various alumni today, right after this ceremony, as part of our alumni weekend. So after you're done, you're going to be an alum, and you come here as an alum, right? You just stay and continue because you never, in some sense, leave our community. We value you the rest of your lives here at the Hertie School. Well, with that, I would like to offer our official program. I cannot say enough about how delighted I am that we have Ambassador Andreas von Brandt. He is the EU ambassador to Afghanistan. Now, there are a lot of things to worry about the last few weeks. We've watched, of course, in shock and dismay, what we've seen on TV. I'm sure the ambassador has seen things much worse live in person. I can tell you that as this graduation approached, I was worried, of course, for very personal reasons. I was hoping he'd make it. And I'm delighted indeed that he did, and that he's indeed here in person. Now, I should say, when we thought about this weekend, we weren't necessarily thinking about what was happening in Afghanistan right at this moment. We were also thinking that it is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And that if we look back 20 years and we think about different things that have happened in Afghanistan, that was also relevant. And again, in terms of planning, that was the theme that we were expecting until basically just this last month. Well, it's an honor to welcome him. He is the European Union's ambassador to the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, and I should say a few words about his background. Before joining the European External Action Service as ambassador, in September of 2020, Andreas von Brandt worked as deputy director in the private office of NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg. Prior to joining NATO, he was deputy ambassador at the German embassy in Kabul, where he managed and oversaw the reconstruction and staff buildup of the embassy following a 2017 attack. Now, Ambassador von Brandt also worked as deputy head of division for the Southern Caucasus and Central Asia at the Federal Foreign Office in Berlin, served on temporary crisis assignments in Libya and Tunisia, and was previously posted in Italy and Pakistan. So I hear a stress very much on crisis and crisis assignments. His impressive career is matched also by his pursuits in higher education. I hope you feel very comfortable being back at a university, in fact. Ambassador von Brandt has not one, but 2 master's degrees. He studied in Heidelberg, Saarbrücken, Trier, Lisbon, and Washington, D.C. He is fluent in several languages: German, as you would expect, French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, and Russian. Now, as I mentioned, in terms of his background, he is no stranger at all to crisis and to difficult situations. I hope today is not one of those difficult situations and that you enjoy your time here at the Hertie School. So, Ambassador, welcome here, and I very much look forward to hearing your comments. Thank you for coming.
I'm wearing these shoes not out of disrespect, but because it's the only shoes left. All the others I have lost in the evacuation. Professor Hallerberg, dear new graduates, ladies and gentlemen, I feel privileged to share this very important moment with you, and thank you for your kind invitation. Allow me to start with some personal reflection, having just returned 2 weeks ago from Kabul, and actually this morning also from Brussels, where our delegation, our embassy, is kind of parked for the time being. Yesterday, 20 years ago, the leader of the National Resistance Front of Afghanistan, the legendary lion from Panjshir, Ahmad Shah Massoud, was assassinated by Al-Qaeda terrorists, who, by the way, came from Europe. They lived in Molenbeek, Brussels. Ordered by Osama bin Laden himself, the assassination was not only the beginning of a series of terror attacks, but it was also the end of one of the last, let's say, bipartisan national figures of Afghanistan that are now so much lacking, and he had a potential for true leadership. Tomorrow, of course, is September 11th, the anniversary, the 20th anniversary, and that is another important date also for myself. I would consider myself a kid of this optimistic 90s. My marking event of my childhood was probably the fall of the Berlin Wall in '89. And the narrative, the discourse goes that this was a time of optimism, end of history, Washington consensus. I mean, you know all of that. And then all of a sudden, history came back, reality, a certain realism, and also the dimension, the awareness for the dimensions such as history, religion, ethnicity, class. I would personally say I was never really convinced that it was the end of history because there were the wars in former Yugoslavia, so there was a lot of bloodshed and a lot of ethnicity and a lot of political problems already, but that was the overall narrative at the time, and Afghanistan was always in it. So it has never really left me throughout these 20 years. I've worked in different capacities. I remember as a young attaché in the Foreign Office, I was kind of seconded to help at the Bonn conference, and we were bringing, beverages to the delegates at the time. And what was not en vogue at the time was political reasoning, let's say the political dimension. I remember having worked in the World Bank on governance, actually, and having written also my master thesis on the concept of governance in different development agencies. I found it always a bit of a, let's say, a bit of a apolitical or a bit of a technocrat concept. At least that was my finding at the time. I remember at the World Bank, the work on criminal justice was not allowed, prison reform was taboo, meeting with parties or meeting with trade unions was not allowed. So this was a governance concept that one could scrutinize. However, it always fascinated me. So it's a privilege to be here in a governance school. And I must say, I studied in various forms and universities, the classical German way, political science, and then in another silo, the law and economics. And I really envy you because you have it all together in this superb multidisciplinary and also, if I understand correctly, hands-on and practice-oriented way. So it gives me great pleasure to congratulate you on your graduation today, a great academic achievement and a superb entry into the exciting world of governance, I hope. So I was supposed to deliver words of encouragement and optimism, and quite frankly, it's not too easy. After having just lost in the sense of we successfully evacuated all our Afghan staff, including their dependents, which amounts to roughly 500 people. We brought them into safety in Europe, but it also means we lost our workforce. We spend every year 350 million euros. The international community actually has spent in these 20 years 2 trillion US dollars. That's, and for the economists, please bear with me, I haven't checked whether it's purchasing power and what the exact figure is, but it is supposedly 4 times the Marshall Plan. And I think it's more or less on current terms, because otherwise this figure wouldn't make sense. So after seeing also the Afghan government being formed with one of the biggest terrorists, the leader of the Haqqani network, who is responsible for some of the bloodiest attacks also on our diplomatic installations, as the new interior minister. After receiving for the last 4 weeks, basically every day, from 10 to 50 WhatsApp and emails by our staff, but also threatened women activists, journalists, also police women that we have promoted with threats for their life and the requests to bring them into safety. After having seen women protesters and journalists being flogged in the streets of Kabul, how can I be constructive and encouraging? There are some voices in the international community who are saying at the moment, we actually need the Taliban to perform well, to govern well. And there are others who take more the, let's say, pessimist approach and say, let them run and let them ruin the economy, because only then the population of Afghanistan will see that the government of mullahs and narcos will quickly collapse and will not succeed. Can we afford that? The European Union's approach has been that we take a bit of a middle ground in this conundrum. We have quadrupled the humanitarian assistance. President von der Leyen just announced from 50 million euros to 200 million euros. And our development assistance has always been roughly 350 million per year. And the tricky part is now, we all agree that we need to avoid further food insecurity, even hunger and starvation. But when we only provide humanitarian assistance, which by definition is independent and non-partial, then we lose the last levers that we may have in the facing the Taliban. So what we are currently debating is as to whether we can actually go back, or whether we should go back, delivering some sort of probably basic needs development assistance. So the mantra is at the moment, avoid the worst. But I would also say, if I have to be optimistic, not everything will be lost. I mean, we planted some seeds, and this is not that is not the traditional diplomat speaking that we always see something good in our work. But I truly believe that not everything will be lost. You know, the improvements in health, in life expectancy are, for example, due to improved women's rights and improved maternal health. And these successes are quite statistically relevant and pretty obvious. Also, education. I mean, in education, you can still debate whether the existence of a school is enough. You have to look into the school and see the quality of the education, but nevertheless, 1/3 of all students in Afghan institutions are women by now, and that is quite an achievement. And even if the Taliban have now erected the curtain or this wall, the Sharia wall, as they call it, for segregated studies, which of course we don't like, but if it continues, it is at least a way to preserve the core of those achievements. But in general, I would say there are more questions than answers. So my most important encouragement today is probably to continue to ask questions, to keep a critical distance from whatever entity of government and governance you will work for, and I hope that you will work for the best and the most interesting, and not because you cannot be loyal or you cannot be enthusiastic or committed to your cause and your corporate unity, but some distance always allows to keep a critical mind. And I think what we have lacked a bit in these 20 years in Afghanistan is to keep, we were so much part of this project, we the West, I mean, we the international community, we have been so much part of this project that we were unable to criticize it or to keep a distant critical approach to it. For example, more questions. Women education and emancipation, is it now morally right to demand even more? You see the protest in the street, you know, and then we tweet about, go for it, bold woman, great, courageous. Is this morally right? You know, will these women be able to protest still tomorrow in 6 weeks? Shall we, on the other hand, shy away and remain silent, only for the fear what may happen? Also, I would say this whole of government approach that we hold so dear, you know, that all entities, all ministries, all our agencies were involved in Afghanistan, represents certain shortcomings or at least challenges, because every ministry wanted to add something to the big project of Afghanistan. Is train, advise, and assist working? You know, because for the last 5 to 6 years, it was no longer a combat mission, contrary to what people sometimes think. It was actually a mission to assist the Afghan security forces. And what happened now? Do we have to draw lessons for other theaters, for other problems? For example, Mali or others? I don't have the answers, and all I can say is we will embark on a big lessons learned exercise, something that was requested from parliaments for quite some time, and now we will have to do it, and I look forward doing it. So wherever you look into this external and internal policy conundrum, you find dilemmas. First dilemma is, if you ask a military, they will tell you, we could have won the war, no problem, if we only had not these caveats of you politicians, you know, we could have gone and we could have solved it. And the civilians usually tell the exact opposite. They say, we have not done enough of development. You know, it was all too much reliance on the military, on the robust stuff. Then also the political, you know, the political affiliations don't work in the same, in the two worlds. A leftist in Europe would say, usually would have said, let's finish this bloody war. A leftist in Afghanistan would traditionally say, support our courageous ANDSF, our national and relatively unified, also ethnically relatively unified defense forces. So even there is no clarity, because they would, of course, want people and the military to stand up against the Islamist theocracy in a way. And then the criticism in Europe. Some saying we have not worked enough with civil society, we should have built a real civil society, and others saying you have spent all your money and your time on women groups that have no tradition in Afghanistan, you have basically imposed the Western concept. And so even there in the criticism, there is no real clarity. So for me, one thing is clear. It was a bad US-Taliban deal. I think everybody agrees that, and it was a hasty withdrawal. And that, I say that as someone who was deeply convinced of the need to end this war and of the need to start negotiations. And I think when President Trump, we may think whatever we think about him, but when he started the negotiations, there was a certain optimism, even among the critics. Some even said this is probably the best foreign policy project that he started, but that he started. And then what happened then, the implementation was, I would say, pretty bad, because everything basically went wrong. They gave up, or we gave up, all our leverage before we actually started real negotiations. And then, of course, the hasty withdrawal, and it's always been too hasty, too short-term, and of course, it's not only us, it's also the Afghans. One has to say that very clearly, because very few Afghan politicians put the greater cause, the common public good, ahead of their parochial and personal kind of gains. And corruption was rampant, and probably we did not dare to raise our voice enough. So this is the complexity, and in policy making, you always have to some extent reduce complexity to be able to work with it. And I must say, as a political scientist, I have discovered more and more the knowledge of the ethnographers, of the anthropologists, who tell us exactly, what is context specific, and so much was context specific. There is a beautiful book. It's called The Intimate War by a certain Mark Martin at King's College, and he wrote a dissertation on one district or two districts in Helmand province in Afghanistan, and he explains basically how there were 10 different wars going on in this little district. There was I'm not going into the details, but it's highly complex, and his thesis is basically how can you even think of winning a big war, or how can you even think of solving the big problem in Afghanistan if even in this little tiny place there is so much politics and complicated politics. So as an ambassador, I'm also often confronted with a narrative, oh, something is too political, let's not touch it. How can something be too political? I think, yes, short-term gains are always possible, and tactical wins may exist, but all long-term solutions, as in our own home countries, they never work without taking local politics and local political considerations into account. So I think that is, to a certain degree, a perfect job description for a political advisor coming from Hertie School graduates. And to conclude, I think my mantra has been all these years that politics count, the political dimension of things count, and basically everything is political, or there is politics in everything. And the rules and phenomena go down to a little village in Helmand as to, macro global economic schemes. And so my encouragement is to take this political dimension in whatever you do very much into account. Of course, to remain critical of the world and don't get too fascinated by the big names of institutions you work for, and to somehow paraphrase a bit this Kennedy quote, what can you do, to ask what can you do for your country? I would say because only then you are able to excel. Do only what you're interested and what you like to do, because only then you'll have a great life in political governance affairs. And last but not least, and very important for myself, having talked about the German university education, I never had a graduate ceremony. So I envy you again, and I look forward to participating in your graduate ceremony. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador von Brandt, for sharing your insights and also your, in a sense, recommendations for our graduates. Dear members of the Hertie community, dear EMPA graduates, I'm absolutely delighted to be standing here with you today and to congratulate you. You're graduating, in a sense, in the way your classrooms ran standard in 2020, 2021. Some of you are here on site in Berlin with us. Some of you are online in the wider world. And a very warm welcome to those of you here, but also to those of you who are online. All of you really are united, I think, from my experience with the EMPA students by three characteristics. You are incredibly determined. Completing a graduate program while working, often whilst raising a family, is challenging. Completing a graduate program whilst working, raising a family, and struggling a pandemic is a true feat. You're incredibly curious. I think, Ambassador von Brandt, your call for asking questions will be absolutely answered in this graduate cohort. You all came to us to learn way out of your comfort zone, to learn about public policy, to learn about governance, about management, and about politics. And you are incredibly flexible, not just by adjusting and balancing work and study, but also by adjusting to different formats of working, writing, learning together. It's been a great pleasure and a huge asset to have you all with us at the Hertie School. And you've enriched our community so much with your experience, with your engagement, with your enthusiasm. I would like to present two graduates now. I'd like to call them on stage and hand over to them who will deliver the student speech. Freise and Elise Racine. I'll introduce you. During their time at the Hertie School, both specialized in digitalization and big data. Before joining us at Hertie, Joanna worked in numerous mobility startups in Berlin and Hamburg and consulted in the automotive industry and the public sector. She is now working for Tier Mobility, Germany's leading micro-mobility operator all over Germany, and she's responsible for public-private partnerships. So this is very much an EMPA profile, I would say, Joanna. Elise came to us with a Master of Science in Health and International Development from the LSE. She remains interested in the societal impact and human rights implications of emerging technology, especially in global health. And Elise is about to start a fully funded doctorate at Oxford. So she joined us from the UK and she's going back to the UK. I hand over to you. Elise, Joanna, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. Starting this program 2 years ago, I do not believe any of us could have anticipated what was to come and how the COVID-19 pandemic would change life as we know it. Collectively, we have experienced an unprecedented challenge, one that has tested us greatly. But it has also been a unique opportunity to apply the lessons that we have learned here at the Hertie School. The Hertie motto, "Understand today, shape tomorrow," has perhaps never been so apt. Now, more than ever, we need leaders, like those I see before me, who possess a profound understanding of today's pressing global policy challenges and are well-poised and dedicated to addressing them. We need driven, passionate, talented individuals who will continue to ask tough questions and seek even tougher answers in their efforts to be ambassadors of good governance. And we need individuals compelled by a strong desire to make a difference. I've been particularly struck by how widespread this desire has been and how it has extended beyond our professional lives. It's been what I can only describe as a hallmark of my experience at the Hertie School. Unsurprisingly then, when asked about my time in the executive MPA program, one of the things I share, after, of course, how much I love Berlin, is how much I love the fact that I am constantly inspired. I am in awe by how my peers in the school have not only adapted during these arduous times to continuously be at the forefront of fighting the crisis, but rallied together to support one another. It is a testament both to the world-class institution at which we have found ourselves and the incredible caliber of students it attracts in its efforts to shape the leaders of tomorrow. While these may not have been the circumstances we expected to be stepping into upon graduation, I have no doubt that Hertie has prepared us well to lead as we do. Leveraging our Hertie education, I know we will be able to tackle the various major societal problems facing us with a deep and indispensable appreciation for the complexities of modern policymaking. To our professors, thank you for giving us the skills and knowledge to succeed in these endeavors and navigate whatever challenges may come our way. We hope we can follow in your footsteps to harness your practice-oriented teachings to enact lasting impact, bettering ourselves and our communities in the process. To the administration, thank you for giving this opportunity to continue our education and growth with minimal disruptions despite these difficult circumstances. The last couple years would not have been possible without your hard work. And to my classmates, it has been a real honor learning with and from you. I wish you the best of luck as you embark on this next stage in life, and greatly look forward to hearing about all your amazing accomplishments to come. Congratulations, we did it.
First things first, dear Professor Ree, dear Professor Hallerberg, Dr. Weisch, dear all of other professors and Juliane, but most importantly, dear teaching assistants, supporting staff, and IT services that have been in almost every of our online sessions. Thank you for taking up this challenge of teaching us skills that were not in the syllabus. The amount of tech support, knowledge on how to set up breakout sessions, and moderating discussions with sometimes semi-good internet connections should receive ECTS points on its own. Dear friends, family, and sometimes even co-workers, so to everyone here, but also on the screens at home, thank you. We couldn't have done it without you. You kept us going through the endless nights of writing papers and our thesis. You helped us keep our schedules clear, our weekends free, and our mind on the go. Some of us have done this degree on the side, some full-time, but no matter track we chose, you supported us along the way, so thank you. Dear graduates, dear students from the previous years and now, thank you for being part of this journey. Even though I'm meeting some of you for the first time in person today, you made it fun, insightful, with all of your knowledge from different topics, with the challenges from your backgrounds. Now, it's a thank you, but it's foremost a congratulations on the past months that we've conquered together, which brings me to my second part.
I think I can speak for most of us here. Next time we sit in a video with a bad connection, we will check our SD functionalities. And we learned how to mute ourselves, some better than others. I can only say Facebook videos are a great icebreaker. Thank you, Ian. And although we didn't have too many evening gatherings, we once had a very great one in Berlin on our first week. It was memorable, and I hope that we continue this tonight and with all our future alumni meetings. Which brings me to my third and final part. Dear graduates, we're now alumni, and some of us have already started a new chapter, some are still planning it. And since every graduation speech needs some sort of inspirational words, here are mine. No matter what you have planned next, you will conquer it. Believe in yourself, believe in the process, and believe in what you have been taught. Not only from the syllabus, but from the experience of completing an executive master's, sometimes fully remote during a pandemic. We learn from classmates all over the world, so from Brazil, from Singapore, and the US, all at the same time. Believe that you can take that next challenge because Hertie equipped us with so much more than an executive master's of public administrations. We learned firsthand what digitalization means and how it works. So please, a round of applause for alumni, for the faculty, for friends and family, and most importantly, for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise and Joanna, and believe you, not just you went through a steep, steep learning curve outside your scientific or academic knowledge. It's been quite a year, 18 months, for all of us. I am now coming to conferment of the degrees. I would just like, for those of you who arrived late, recap how we're doing this. I'm going to read out the names, and you will stand up, if you wish. When I read out yours, hold up your diploma or not hold up your diploma, but this is how we will do it. You can also hold it up all at the same time, but that might be confusing for the guests. So, dear Hertie community, in Berlin and further afield, Acting President Hallerberg, I present to you the MPA graduates 2020 and 2021. Sascha Alde-Hoek. In the virtual space, Olga Ametistova. Emir Çelebi. Mark Matthew Dempsey. Also in the virtual space, Maya Dvalishvili. Matthias Ecke. Joanna Freise. Online, Irma Gabriadze. Julian Garcia Aristizabe. Anna Juhosch. Goran Kuchera. Oliver Lauenstein. Salome Lominashvili. Wadzanai Motsi Katai. Britta Marina Naujoks. In the virtual space, Jyoti Umprakash. Elise Racine. In the virtual room, Ion Shidu. Sujai Sen. Mois Raja Moinuddin Sheikh. Markus Thiemann. Jörg Rudolf Ülin. Nicolas Tendai van Eckert. Matteo Vanucchi. Yang Ja Kate. Ladies and gentlemen, our executive MPA graduates. Now you're alumni.
All right, family members, faculty, indeed alumni, members of our administrative team, and friends of the Hertie School, thank you for joining us to celebrate, indeed, the classes of 2020 and 2021. We are immensely proud of you. We look forward to seeing you in the coming years, indeed, as alumni, and if you wish, stay for our alumni weekend. So, congratulations.